Should you train sick? Bro, I'm sick in the mind. That's not the sickness we're talking about. We're talking about the cold. Morally, you're gonna be like, no, I don't want to train sick because I'm gonna get other people sick. Said the smallest guy at the gym that didn't want to be there in the first place. And I don't agree with getting people sick just to get people sick. It's just wipe after yourself. People are gonna cough in the grocery store on your vegetables anyways. And chances are, if you're gonna get sick, you got unlucky or you didn't wash your hands. But for your own recovery, is it worth it? Well, I think it depends at what stage of training you're at and how bad your sickness is. I got sick at the worst point in my training block, which is my RP 9 weeks, the heaviest point of my training block. And some colds are more aggressive than others. And this video you're watching, I'm currently benching sick. It's about 380 pounds. I'm pretty happy how it moved considering conditions. The decent pause, probably the best ever moved with a IPF pause. But I was definitely hoping for a bit more, maybe 405 for an okay pause. But no chance of happening on a day like this where I happen to get sick and my eating, my water load, and everything just kind of feels stirred up. But overall, I was able to get the job done. I'm pretty happy. When you're sick, you have to be optimistic with training. Otherwise, you'll be like one of those salty guys, like, I don't feel good. I'm just going to re-rack the weights and go home. Or even worse, don't re-rack the weights and go home. Every single day in your training, good or bad, has purpose. You can't have the ups without the lows. And really, when it comes down to feeling good or bad in training, is to have great training momentum in your training, which only comes with having consistency and a training log history. Now bring your attention back to the footage. This is a chest and back day. We're doing it sick. We're doing it with a neutral row. This machine's a precursor machine. I don't typically do this machine, and a lot of machines I don't actually follow. It's just because I'm not feeling 100%. I want to try a little bit more of an easier workout. So yeah, I'm doing this standing at first, and I was like, man, this thing feels like crap seated, feels like crap standing. And I've come to use a foam roller on my midsection to get a little bit more range of motion. But aside from that, the build of this machine, it really requires you to flare out. So not a huge fan of it. We'll probably not use it again. It just happens to be that some of these machines look fancy, they look comfortable, but they feel like doo-doo. This machine feels like doo-doo. And I think it just has a movement pattern that's unnatural. Maybe it's just my build. I don't really feel comfortable. And some people love it. But personally, I think it feels like crap. And I will not be using it again. Now this machine, on the other hand, for a chest press, I was pleasantly surprised. I typically do not settle for chest press movements, decline, incline, especially the ones where you load with the cable, because they tend to be on the lighter side. But this one, man, the stretch, the tension on the bottom is severe. Now, because I like to opt for a heavy bench press in the beginning of my workout, I tend to focus on the stretch position and where it trains the most resistance at the stretch position. But recently, I think I might be going into a more concentric focused style of training to push my overall training intensity, because training the eccentric can get a little comfortable. It is beneficial, especially for beginners, but over time, when you're constantly training with just eccentric, you need to start focusing on harder concentrics so that you can have maximal loads for the eccentric. So it kind of goes like back and forth, kind of like Pong. When you're too new, you gotta use the eccentric to your advantage, and when you master that movement, then you gotta go for a heavier concentric so you can load the eccentric. Anyways, moving forward with this workout, we are going to the assisted pull-up machine, and it feels really good for the squeeze. I don't know if it's doing a whole lot because the training intensity is pretty moderate, but I like to tell myself that it's doing a lot because I wasn't feeling 100%, and pushing at this point will just make me feel even worse than I already do. Either way, I got some really cool angles. I got a great squeeze at the top, and I look sick doing it, so that's never a loss. And yeah, I really wanted to use the seated machine pull down, but it was taken. I wasn't gonna wait an extra 20 minutes for it, so I've just hammered these out, 2 sets to failure, about minus 20 pound body weight. And talk about something I really don't do: incline Smith machine press. I don't really do this that often. And we're moving 2 plates. Now, if you have a Smith machine like this on an angle, make sure you're doing it this way where it's coming down to the chest and not away from the chest. Your lockout and shoulders will be screaming. And I don't care if you need the mirror, you don't need the mirror. Focus on how it feels, not how it looks. It's not that important. This is a big component to why I do not squat with the mirror. And now we're moving on to the wide grip pull down that I totally forgot I did in this session. Again, I don't typically do these exercises in this order, but you know, it is the last week of the train block, and I'm trying to pull back on training intensity so my overall recovery feels good. I still have one massive lift to hit at the end of this week, which is a 705 deadlift for 2, which is extremely optimistic if I'm being honest at this point. I don't know if I'll get it, but I'm going to try go for it, and it will be on my Instagram if I do get it. Speaking about my Instagram, if you have any questions, send me a question on Instagram. I do giveaways for Young LA. Actually, use my code, it would help support a lot, and for huge supplements, especially if you're in the market to looking for some supplements and clothes. I was wearing the new drop today, that's dropping on October 16th. Came back to the footage, man, I look so much better than I did for the last year's quote-unquote winter arc. And to be honest, that was one of my biggest regrets, was trying to get big by forcing a calorie surplus when, to be honest, I pretty much met close to my natural potential. And don't get me wrong, I've definitely benefited from that massive bulk I'd done. This is me at 215 pounds, decently lean, but also pretty dehydrated from being sick. I wouldn't say it's my best physique I've brought so far, but I'm pretty happy considering I'm starting to get my old strength back. And it's only been like 6-7 weeks, and I feel like I have a huge potential to keep getting stronger while maintaining a lean aesthetic physique. And obviously I'm no C-bomb or Larry Wheels when it comes to strength, just a natty guy trying to push the natty way while being strong, healthy, and fit. Like and subscribe, peace. Oh yeah, and you should probably not train sick, but if you have to because you're obsessed, maybe take 1 to 2 days off the worst days, maybe the first 3 days of being sick, then come back. Acknowledge that it might do more damage than good, but if you can't help yourself, you can't help yourself. You're gonna train sick anyways.